What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Last time we talked about DITC, Big Pun. We briefly touched on Terror Squad. So just to finish that up, we have Cuban Link, Chain Reaction, which I picked this album up around the time it came out and listened to it maybe twice, and I never went back to it. So that's one I'll have to revisit at some point. And the Remy Ma album, I picked up used years after the fact. I was never a huge Remy Ma fan. I've got nothing against her. She just never really did it for me. I don't remember a lot about that album. But we are about to get into some absolute legends in the game here. Starting with Chino XL, Here to Save You All. So first and foremost, rest in peace Chino XL. Here to Save You All is I think it's a great album. It's very, very dark, very minimalistic in a way, very punchline heavy as most of Chino's work was. I don't think this is his best album, but I think for a debut album, it was very good. It also had the Razcast track was incredible, and then he had a track on here with Kool Keith, and just both of those tracks, the Razcast and the Kool Keith tracks alone, make this worth checking out. But this is a very solid album. His follow-up, I Told You So. I really enjoyed this. It had Kool G Rap feature on it, on Let 'Em Live, and Kool G Rap blacked out on that verse, and I just thought that was such an incredible performance from him. This album was really good. I felt like it was a little more varied in the production. I think the production on his debut was a little more cohesive, but this one you can tell he's really kind of spreading his wings a little bit, trying some different sounds. That was a good, solid album. This one I have yet to listen to. I skipped it when it came out. I picked it up a few years ago. I never popped it open, so I don't really have an opinion on that, but I will be sitting down with that in the near future. But the album I am excited to talk about, Poison Pen. And this is the 2-disc version, I think. If I remember correctly, the second disc, I think it was like an audio commentary, special DJ mix bonus disc. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'd have to listen to it again. Either way, this is my favorite Chino XL album. I just feel like conceptually, lyrically, just everything about Chino, he was at his absolute peak on this album. It was less about punchlines and more about crafting clever lyrics, clever concepts. He's got a feature on there from Proof on Our Time, which is a standout song from this album. If you listen to one Chino XL album, though, I would say Poison Pen is the way to go. I just think this is his masterpiece. This was Chino XL trying his hand at a double disc album, and there's a lot of really good songs on here. A lot of really good features. He has a song on here with Tech 9, if I can remember what it was called, Hell Song. That's easy enough. He's got a song on here with Tech 9 called Hell Song. That's incredible. He's got a lot of really introspective songs on here. This is a great album, but it's a very bloated album. I do feel like there's filler that could have been cut on this one. I still have a lot of songs on here that I really love, though, and I still think that one is worth checking out. This one was released after he died, and it is a very dark album. I also think this could potentially be his best or second best project. I feel that strongly about it. Maybe there's some recency bias there. I just feel like the production on it was perfect. Chino's rhyming's perfect. It's short and sweet. Just a very dark album, and knowing what we know now about everything that happened with Chino and his passing, kind of makes you listen to the music a little differently. But I would still highly recommend this, especially if you missed out on that. R.A. the Rugged Man, Die Rugged Man Die. This, for me, is a personal classic. And I say a personal classic because if you really broke this down and you did a review track by track by track, you'd probably end up with, 3.5 mics if we're going source, a 7 out of 10. However you would want to rate it, it would be a solid album. But for me, just getting this, I bought this the day it came out. I was already a fan of the Rugged Man from, what was he? He was on the Sound Bombing albums and just popping up throughout the 90s. I was already a fan of him, and this album gave me everything I wanted from him. I still believe this is his best album. His style of rapping is much more different than what he's probably known for now. Now he's known for, the crazy multi-syllable rhyme schemes and like borderline chopping and rapping fast. This was much more slow, much more methodical. The production's okay, it's not mind-blowing, but just hearing Rugged Man as prime Rugged Man, just crazy, mentally unstable. I absolutely love this album. I would highly recommend that one. Legendary Classics Volume 1. This is just a bunch of the stuff that he was featured on in the 90s. You'll see he's got Cunt Renaissance with Notorious B.I.G. That was kind of Rugged Man's claim to fame for a while. Jedi Mind Tricks, Timbo King, G-Rap, Mobb Deep, Havoc of Mobb Deep. A lot of really great classic early 90s songs on this. That one is also highly recommended. So this was the project where R.A. kind of made the switch to probably what most people know him for today. The multi-syllables, the just rapping fast. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I'm not a huge fan of that style. I really enjoyed it when he would bring it out for the guest features, but hearing him do it over the course of a whole album, for me, it just wasn't what I got into R.A. for. He's still a incredibly skilled technical rapper. I don't think the production on this one is that great, but this is still an okay album. It's just not my go-to album. This one I didn't spend a lot of time with. I've listened to it maybe 4 or 5 times. I really like the song he has with Cool G Rap. Who else was on that? Ghostface, Mastakilla. I think that's a great song. Anytime he's got Afro on there, Afro is an incredible talent for being as young as he is. It's also 22 tracks, which is a little long for me. I did enjoy this, though. I liked it a lot more than the album he put out before it. I need to spend more time with that one, but I do think that was a step in the right direction. Thurston Howell. I wish I had more Thurston albums in my collection. This guy has an incredible discography, very deep discography. For me, in my mind, this was always the album that was talked about back in the day. You would always see this one come up. I really like this. I like Thurston. I like his hardcore style, very rugged. Just as underground as an underground rapper could be. I really enjoy this album. I'm going to have to pick up some more stuff from him, though. Immortal Technique presents Poison Pen. Poison Pen, obviously a legend in the underground game, a legend in the battle rap game. I'm not a huge fan of Poison Pen as a rapper. I'm not going to lie. I enjoy him for his guest features, but I realized very quickly when I picked this up, I was not invested in him as a solo artist. If you're a fan of Poison Pen, I think you'll enjoy this album, but for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of him, but it was still solid. It was okay for what it was. Immortal Technique. This was the first of the Revolutionary albums, Revolutionary Volume 1. This is a very raw underground album. Technique was very rough around the edges. That being said, I still think it's a fucking incredible album. Just, it really captures a special time in the early 2000s hip-hop where it was just about having minimalistic beats and saying the craziest shit you could say. And it's a very special album. But I feel like the follow-up, Revolutionary Volume 2, I think this is his classic album. Legitimately strong songwriting. His flow is better. The lyrics were sharp. Concepts were there. Just everything you could want out of Technique, he delivered on this album. I think this one is perfect. Absolutely his classic record. I listened to this one probably a week or 2 ago. I remember for a while there, I wasn't a fan of the newer music Technique was putting out. He switched his style up a little bit. His voice kind of got deeper. His flow got a little slower. And I didn't enjoy it as much. Going back to this album, I think the first half of it is very strong. He's got a song on there, Lick Shots, with Crooked Eye and Chino XL. I think that's great. Diabolic and Raz Kaz are on there. I just feel like the deeper you get into this album, it's not as good. It starts off very strong, it ends kind of weak for me. But it was better than I remember it being, and I do enjoy it a lot more than I did when I initially got it. This one was a freebie, free download, and then I can't remember, I think they actually gave this away for free. You just paid for shipping. A lot of great features on there. Vinny Paz, Poison Pen's on there, Pumpkinhead, Joel Ortiz. This is a solid one. I haven't listened to it in a while, so I'm not gonna go too in depth with it, but I do remember listening to it. Again, it was newer technique music. I wasn't the biggest fan of that style at the time, but I will be revisiting that. Immortal Technique presents Akir, which this was okay. I have to be in a very specific mood for certain political artists. And the reason I like artists like Technique was because, you know, he did his political music, but he also just had some bugged out punchline, most disrespectful shit you ever heard. The artists that tend to focus more on just political records, for me, it's just, it can be a hard listen at times. It's the same problem I had with, you know, like I love Public Enemy, but I have to be in a very specific mood for Public Enemy. Sabak. I like Sabak. I have to be in a very specific mood for Sabak. The High and Mighty, which I'm actually kind of playing catch up on the High and Mighty. I fucked with their music back in the day, but I only ever listened to the High and Mighty for their guest features, because they always had great guest features. You can see they got Copyright, Cage, Havoc, Rugged Man. One of their albums they had Eminem on. So I always appreciated them for the guest features. Mighty Mai, I think, is a decent producer. I never took the deep dive into their music. So within the last few years, probably, I've really been going back and digging into everything that they kind of put out back then. Obviously, their record label, the Eastern Conference Records, they put out a lot of classic underground albums. So it's been fun going back and doing the deep dive on that. But I've actually really been enjoying, I think this might have been a single, right? I've really been enjoying digging into their music because I appreciate it a lot more now for what they did. Megahertz, which as we can see, RJD2, Copyright, Camus, Jakai the Motormouth Tage, just classic Midwest hip-hop. This is from that time in underground hip-hop where everybody was just trying to come with the most original, bugged-out styles, and I absolutely love that. I miss when rappers were all trying to be drastically different. This one it's a classic underground album. A lot of great styles, a lot of great flows, a lot of great production. I really, really enjoyed that one. And this kind of served as, like, I can't say official debut because obviously they had an album before that, but this was almost their introduction to the masses. This was way, way after the fact. This was years later. This album was cool. When it works really well, but there are a few songs on here where the production just really isn't that great. That being said, it was still solid. I just think it was a little too late. I wish they would have had more projects in between this. Copyright, underground legend, one of the premier punchline rappers from back in the day. I like Copyright. I've always picked up his projects when I can find them. My only real issue with him was he was so invested in the punchline rap thing that became his whole identity for a good chunk of his early music. This one is considered by many people to be an underground classic. I think it's a solid album. I do think it's a good place to start, especially if you're a fan of punchline rap. I think this was the first Copyright project I ever picked up. I think I might have ordered this off UGG back in the day. Like I said, if you're into the whole punchline style of rapping, you'll love Copyright. This one I picked up a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago. I've not listened to it yet. I've heard a lot of good things about his later releases though. Jakai the Motor Mouth, God vs. Satan. This is really dope because it's a concept album. The entire, you can see it's, what do we got, 28 fucking songs. The entire record does not follow the concept, but for the most part it does. It tells the story about, obviously God versus Satan, fighting over his soul. There's legitimately a great concept album here, especially if you just cut it down to the songs that strictly stick to that concept. A lot of great storytelling, a lot of great concepts. Jakai's a great rapper. A lot of people slept on this one. I don't see it mentioned very often. But if you're looking for great conceptual hip-hop, I would definitely urge you to check that one out. Esham, underground horrorcore legend. This was the first album I ever picked up by him. I was way too young when I got it. I was not prepared for how fucked up of an artist Esham was. But this is a horrorcore classic if you're into that style of music. If you like really fucked up hardcore, just the most terrible shit you could imagine, this is a great record to check out. This is probably the Esham album I would point anybody to if you're looking to get into that. And I really enjoy that one. As you can see, I picked that one up 2008, which this is good too, but I have to be in a very specific mood for Esham's music, but still a solid album. I've never really heard anything by him I didn't like. I just have to be in that mood. This one I picked up a few months ago. A lot of great artists on here. Just Allah, C. Ray's Walls. I mainly got it because for me, this was when Just Allah, when he had gone solo. This was when he was in his absolute prime. He was supposed to put out an album on this label. It never came out. But I picked this up specifically to get the Just Allah verses because I loved what he was doing during that time in his life. I think that was him at his absolute peak. Alright, now speaking of underground legends, we're going into the Mole Men from the city of Chicago. The Mole Men is a group of producers, rappers, just a collective out of Chicago. They make some absolute, just masterpieces. They're not as active now, but in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, they were just putting out a lot of classic projects. Some of my absolute favorite producers. This album right here, man, I remember this came with the instrumental version as well. I played the fuck out of this album. Casual, Virtuoso, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Micah 9, Graph, Rhyme Fest, Cormega. If you're looking to get into the Mole Men as producers, this is the one to check out. I think it has their absolute best production. Some big names absolutely just fucking flexing all over. This is a really, really, really good compilation album. PNS, which is one of the producers from the Mole Men. The Mole Men put out a bunch of solo instrumental albums. They're very cheaply made, hand-pressed. Anytime I ran across one, though, I would pick it up. I believe I also have one from, was that Panic? Yeah, I got one of them from Panic as well. But yeah, they have a grip of instrumental albums out there. I really enjoy them for what they are. But my introduction to the Mole Men came with this album, The Darkest Cloud by Vakill. And Vakill on the surface was very much your typical hyper-lyrical punchline artist. When this album came out, it kind of changed my perception of him because he had a lot of introspective music on here. Just a lot of really deep, thoughtful, incredibly creative writing on this album. And I got put onto this album from the UGG message boards back in the day, and I just thought it was fucking incredible. I was instantly a fan of this dude. I followed anything he put out after that. This one for me is a classic. This was a repress of a compilation that just put together a bunch of the shit he did in the early, late 90s. Just kind of put that all together, but it was this next album here that kind of really thrust him into the spotlight. He didn't go mainstream with it, but it was definitely his biggest album. He had features from Raz Kaz and Royce da 5'9" on there, which was a big deal at the time. Production on it is absolutely incredible. His rapping, absolutely incredible. Most people would consider this to be his classic album, and I would not argue that at all. I listened to this a few weeks ago as well. I really enjoyed it. For whatever reason, and maybe it's just because I have so much nostalgia tied up in those early releases, Vakill's later music, and he's only got 1 or 2 projects after Worst Fears Confirmed. I didn't spend a lot of time with him, but I did go back to this. I didn't think the production was as good. I liked the production on the early albums a lot better, but his rapping was even better on this than the projects that came before it. And this was his latest release, which was an EP essentially. 7 songs. He's got Vinny Paz on there, Juice is on there, Twist is on there. This one was good. I don't remember a lot about it. I'll have to revisit it, but I do remember listening to it and I liked it quite a bit. And the last album on the shelf, Juice, another Midwest legend. Juice doesn't have a lot of projects out like that you can buy physically, so anything he puts out I try to snatch up. You can see he's got a lot of great features on here. Vakill's on there, Elzai, Binary Star, Jay-Z, Corrupt, Rhymefest. Juice has definitely made a name for himself, but as far as like actual projects, he has not put out a lot. This one looks like it's another hand-to-hand bootleg, but anything he puts out that I can cop, I definitely cop. Alright guys, once again, quick and slick, that's another shelf. Next time we'll be running some more underground legends. Looks like we're coming up on Tech 9. And then we're working our way through to a bunch of the more old school stuff. So at some point here in the future, we'll be talking about the Juice Crew, LL Cool J. So a lot of really dope shit coming up. Thank you for checking out the video, and I appreciate it.